So hello and welcome to the 8th episode of the Living the Dream podcast, a podcast for real estate agents that discusses strategy to grow your business to its maximum potential, while at the same time making sure that you are in control of your career and have the time to lead a balanced life. I'm Linus Killius, head of business development at Homania, and with me as always is the co-host of the podcast and broker and general manager of Century 21 Heritage Group, Aaron Richardson. Aaron, how's it going?
Good, Linus. How are you? Super excited today to have Marina on from MoveSnap.
Yeah, so am I. I'm pretty pumped for it too. You know who else wanted to be on the show today, but I had to cut was my son. My 10-year-old son.
Really?
About 20 minutes ago, he was coming out. He's like, "Dad, can I just like sit there next to you in the podcast today?" I'm like, "I'd love to, but I have a funny feeling it's not exactly as much fun as you think it is behind this green screen there, buddy." So I was like, what?
Is he still doing his podcast right now? Like, I mean, he was doing some.
He was doing YouTube videos,
Minecraft, and
he was
doing
kids
an
love
awesome
Minecraft,
job.
so they're loving doing videos. They try and publish them every once in a while too. So yeah, it's something that he was like, he has fun doing his show. So he's like, well, maybe Daddy has a good show too. But I was like, you know what, maybe we'll just get you to watch it. I'm sure you probably won't get through the first 10 minutes of the show. So, anyways,
I promised my daughter that we would start doing one as well. So maybe get our kids doing it, and it would be pretty neat.
That's what this is. This is just a warm up for teaching our kids how to do podcasting down the road. So as a real estate agent, a very important part of finding people new homes is making sure the process goes as smoothly as possible. Many agents, they simply just disappear once that transaction is complete, right? But if you can extend your job past the actual transaction and into the difficult transition of moving and settling into a new home, you can create a lasting impression on your client at a time when they arguably need it the most, when they need the most help, right? So we always talk about this on the podcast. If you can offer those extra services to your clients above and beyond what other agents offer, not only is it going to make you more successful in things like listing presentations, but I guarantee your clients are going to start recommending you to everybody. And that's what it's all about. It's all about the referrals. So moving from one home to another is possibly the largest exercise in frustration a person can go through. You literally have to pull up your whole life and put it in a different place. This isn't an easy thing to do. Not only do you have to move all your stuff, but you need to move your cable, your internet, your phone service if you still have landlines, heat, hydro. You need to change the address on all your IDs, your credit cards, your bank accounts. It's a list that's so long it's nearly impossible not to forget something. And you won't forget something if you and your clients are using a digital concierge service to help them through this difficult time. So today on the show, what we're going to be talking about these digital concierge services and how you can best take advantage of them as a real estate agent. And there is no one better to talk to this about than Marina Avisar, the CEO of MoveSnap, the bona fide leader in this space. Marina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
So whenever we have someone on from a company, I'm always like, I could try and explain what you do, but there's no one better to explain it than the CEO. So what is MoveSnap all about?
MoveSnap is a digital moving concierge service, and we've helped tens of thousands of people move over the years. We help realtors differentiate their services by extending this team out to their clients.
So how can real estate agents really take advantage of it from their end? Like we always tell people, you gotta go for the full service to differentiate yourselves. How can something like a digital concierge service like MoveSnap really help real estate agents get more business or improve the quality of business they're providing?
Sure. So if we kind of take a step back, very much to what you said, moving is such a stressful time. It always has been. You're pretty much taking everything from one life and trying to put it all into a different life. And so we know that it's one of the most stressful things in life. I think I read an article that was saying that it's probably just as stressful as divorce or losing your job. And you're trying to do this at the same time as you're still living all the different pieces. You're still working, you're still parenting, and all the different things that are going on in your life. You're still going through them, but now you also need to figure out how to move. So between that stress and that lack of time, moving is also very expensive. Trying to figure out how you're going to do all of these things as a client, as that person who just bought a new place or just is about to move, has always been very difficult. To your point, it's also about that same time when that person realizes that they need to do all these things, that the realtor would typically move on to their next prospects and their next clients, not because of bad intentions, but that's just how it continues to go. And so these clients are kind of looking at a life event, a massive milestone in their entire position, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to do this. There are experts. MoveSnap is an expert. We've been doing this. We've been helping clients move for about, I want to say, 4 or 5 years at this point. And it's everything from changing utilities, everything to changing your addresses, all of these different pieces that come to play that we have on a digital platform. Certainly COVID has come to play as well, and that's become a big part of moving, unfortunately, certainly since March, and continues to be so. So being able to do all of these things on a digital platform becomes incredibly useful, incredibly helpful to a client. And so back to your question, how does that help a realtor? At the end of the day, we really do want to extend the best services that we can. That point that is so incredibly stressful for that client is typically the point that they're going to remember for years on end about moving, right? And you might do all these fantastic things along the way, but that stressful point is kind of what people tend to go back to years down the line, months down the line. And so being able to be there as a realtor for your client, because you're not really abandoning them. You might go on to another client, but now you've set up an entire team of experts to support these particular questions and this particular help becomes very memorable to that client. And they associate it so closely with your name, with your brand, with your logo, with everything that you've done, because we do this all on your behalf. It becomes a win-win proposition, both for a client who's now being supported right across on a digital platform, but also on a one-on-one concierge, phone calls. But it's also a huge win for the realtor, because being able to move on to your next client, but not really abandoning your clients that you've already closed through, it becomes a lasting impression that you're able to do. It allows you to be a lot more optimized with your time, per se. And really, it's just about extending that level of service that you always want.
So is this like a handoff service? Like as soon as the MoveSnap stuff kicks in, is the realtor like involved in any sort of level, or is it kind of like, now we got this concierge, they're going to take care of you? Because that's one thing that like really struck me. I was like, I want to know as a realtor if I can help out. Like, you still want to be like in the periphery, like you have the experts working on it for them, helping them get that move transition, but you still want to be like overseeing stuff a little bit as a realtor. Is there any way you can do that throughout this platform?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't a handover at all. In fact, it's just an extension. And there's a whole lot of different features that are packed into the product that allow that closed loop system, so to speak. That when clients call in, when clients want any particular information, the realtor is aware of the different pieces that are kind of coming through, being supported. The client never feels that they can't talk to the realtor, but rather there's specific questions and specific things that they need a little bit more help with that we would do through MoveSnap. And like I said, again, we don't do this in terms of MoveSnap. We do this as an extension of a realtor's team. So it always goes back to that realtor.
Yeah, I have to say, as a realtor, when I firmed up a transaction, and I had this hole in between when I firmed up a transaction and the closing of the transaction. And it seemed like, congratulations, you bought a house, everybody's happy. I've been talking to them almost every day for the last 2 months, getting into that process, and all of a sudden I disappear. And I feel awkward, because it seems, in my mind, if I was them, I was like, I disappeared on them. And I was always looking to sort of close that gap between firming up and closing. And MoveSnap was the solution. So that's why I started using the service. And we often forget. We forget that the client is going through a stressful time. And I know we brought it up when we said it, but we have to remind ourselves all the time as realtors of what they're going through, because we're just on to the next one, and we forget. So having that connection where you can call and say, did you receive the invite from MoveSnap, right? And then you follow up again. How are you enjoying the service? Were you able to get your IDs changed? I noticed that you are halfway through the process because like you were saying, it's an extension, so you can kind of see where they're at on the platform, which was great. So I'm a big fan of it, and that's why I'm so happy to have you on today, because it was something that really made a big difference, not just with my service, but obviously our brokerage that provides it, and all the agents just love it. There was no question in there. It was more of a, I'm just pumping your tires.
Yeah, and it's true. It's definitely through the client's move. You have those different touch points. You have the reasons to connect, but they're very targeted connects. It's not just, hey, do you need anything? Do you need anything? They're very specific to and very relevant to the client. And then we've also built in a few really cool things beyond that, because you're starting to be able to see the different milestones. Pretty soon you're going to also be able to add different points where, let's say, 3 months check-in, 2 months check-in, 1 year check-in, your client's birthday. And you have in one spot, in one dashboard, you can actually see everything that's coming up in your territory and with your clientele over the next 2 weeks, right? And so maybe beyond the guys that are actually moving and the clients that are moving today, you forgot about, you've moved on, and now you have a notification, hey, your client such and such, that this is their 3-month anniversary. Do you want to connect with them? So you're actually prompted at very relevant times. You can choose to call them. Hey, it's their birthday this coming next 2 weeks. Just remember to call them. And you're able to do that a whole lot more effectively rather than trying to remember the Rolodex of all the clients you've had over the years.
You telling us about this makes it sound like you guys have ambitions to make this almost like a full-fledged CRM system. Is that kind of where MoveSnap is going?
I know. That's a really good question, by the way, and I get asked that quite a bit, certainly internally. We have no aspirations of going head-to-head with CRM companies that have actually been doing it very well over 20 years. I think those pieces are very well thought out, and there's no reason for us to kind of add to it. But where we really fit in nicely is we are client-facing. So for me, if my realtor said to me, hey, I really want to show you something, it's super cool, it's going to help you, this is Salesforce. As a user, I might be excited. As a realtor, I might be excited for sure. But as a client, Salesforce really won't do that much for me. Where MoveSnap comes in is it really is client-facing. And you're able to show prospects. You're able to show your clients how you're going to support them, not just to the point where the deal is closed, but rather all the way to bring them home. And so that's really the angle. Any kind of features that we put in, it's not to displace CRMs in any way. That's not the point at all, but rather how do we support realtors in interfacing and interacting client-facing actions that you would do with your client.
I'm super excited you're going down that path. I'm a big fan of relationship building. I mean, we're in a business where we need to build relationships, but often we forget, that it has been a year. We need to be reminded. So having a system that does that, and I'll be honest, as much as I think CRMs are very important, they can be very impersonal at the same time. So if you're able to sort of remind the agent contacts, I mean, it's not going to do any good for MoveSnap to say happy birthday. I mean, it's the agent that needs to call, right? You're not building the relationship with the system. You're building it with the agent. So just those little reminders will be a huge service for an agent. So I'm glad to hear that.
Just finding reasons to contact your list, I think, is so powerful. I was talking to a real estate agent that I'm really good friends with just a few days ago, and he was looking at the time, be like, hey, it's a little bit slower right now, being January and COVID and everything too with the lockdown. And he was like, I need to start contacting all my list. And he's like, I don't know how to broach a lot of these conversations. Like, so having the excuse periodically to keep following up along the way is something I think is a very powerful and maybe an underestimated tool. It helps get you off your butt to actually go and call your clients and reconnect with them and keep those connections going.
Absolutely. And even through the actual move and just post move, some of the things that we've enabled is just a testimonial engine. And so the client has a few questions that they can answer in terms of what that service looked like to them from the agent. And that comes right back to the agent. And it's an amazing tool because the agent now has information about how that client saw their services, right? And of course, it's a learning tool. So when an agent gets a testimonial that isn't perfect, isn't fantastic, it's something that you can now grow as an agent. And how do you get yourself a little bit better? How do you supply and provide better services, etc.? But every once in a while, and in fact, quite often, there are some testimonials that are just phenomenal. They are absolutely fantastic. And you're able to kind of sort through the ones that you might want to ask for referrals or put it on digital, and have that out there as just as a referral, somebody that is absolutely excited about your services, right? So being able to stay connected, not just during the move, but even right after or a whole lot after.
I would imagine, I mean, just from an agent standpoint that may be listening to this, how do they, is this a subscription service, a yearly, monthly, per transaction? We implemented it and gave it on behalf of the brokerage. So I'm sure there's brokerages that are using it. If you could run down sort of the model that an agent, if they're listening right now, how to get more information about what sort of costs are associated and how do they sign up?
Sure. So we do work with brokerages. That's our typical mode, where we do have corporate relationships, and different brokerages are able to offer that service to their realtors and specific costs that are associated to it. But we end up really working closely with a brokerage through that transaction. We do have loan realtors that decide that they just want to go ahead with it if their brokerage isn't actually offering that. In all cases, our transactions are over the year. We like to create a relationship that is lasting between us and that realtor, us and that brokerage. I have a team, I kind of talked a bit about the concierge team that's able to take the calls for the clients, but we also have a partner success management team. And we have very specific steps that we take to support our brokerages and our realtors so that they're actually successful with a product. And so beyond the onboarding, we do quite a bit of training. We provide a lot of digital support and marketing collateral. And so all these things kind of come to play right at the front. And then we continue that relationship through that year.
Aaron, you guys use this at your brokerage. Are you finding it's a great tool for recruitment, retention, training, that sort of thing?
Yeah, all that. Anytime that you can give a realtor an opportunity to provide extra services to their clients, it's a win-win for the brokerage and the win-win-win. The brokerage, the realtor, and the client. So you'll get referrals, repeat business. I believe that if you plug in the experts along the way, that you have a roadmap for every buyer, every seller should have a roadmap of service. And this fills, like I said, that hole between the firm up and close and provides that added service. So if you have 3 or 4 of those nice plug-in models or systems, technology-wise or just service-wise, you're building out an amazing foundation for a good business.
So, Marina, is there anything that we can expect, like maybe you can tease a little bit, that we're going to be seeing from MoveSnap over the next year or 2, even maybe 5 years down the road? Like where are you guys taking this? You've already talked a little bit about some of the direction you're planning on going, but is there anything else you can maybe tease for us?
Yeah, absolutely. We went national. I want to say it was in July timeframe. And so we've been able to cover all of Canada. We've solved for the dual bilingual piece as well. And of course, from an operational standpoint, it's not just the platform that speaks French, but it's also a whole lot of people within the organization that are able to support that. So that was super interesting.
That must have been a tough thing for you to do. I've heard, I was in retail before real estate, and to go into the French market there's so many different pieces that have to be done. So that must have been tough.
So I think it was very exciting. It's definitely a little bit different. And we have fantastic people that are now able to support that. I've been on calls where I don't know what's being said, unfortunately, but I have people that do, and they can tell me after. So beyond being national, of course, we are deployed on the cloud, and Every couple of weeks, we release new features and new capabilities that are kind of coming through. I talked a bit about that post and being able to just mark yourself when a birthday's coming up, when these different milestones are coming through. You're going to be able to very easily, with an invitation, also set up that email. Think of it as a drip. Like literally with a click of a button, you can also just have that template email that goes out to the client at a particular time. So you're always covered from that perspective. We're loading a whole lot of different features now also onto the prospecting side. And so we know that a lot of our realtors use MoveSnap just to tell their prospects, hey, when you sign with me, we have an extended team that's able to support you. But it's not just talking about it. We're actually providing an entry point where the realtor can actually put their email address. Now you have a reason to ask the prospect, hey, what's your phone number? And even more importantly, you send out an invite as a prospect. You have an opportunity to call back now a few days later. Hey, what do you think of MoveSnap? Right? So it keeps you connected with your prospects. So those are kind of the things that are coming through. We're adding a little bit more on the client and the user journeys all the time. So there's going to be a whole lot of different streams that are coming through. I'm super, super excited on. The other side of the business also, in terms of the capabilities and what we're trying to provide in terms of value proposition to clients, we work through several different partners, a lot of different partners actually, in trying to save money for the clients through their moves. And so we work very closely in vetting very specific organizations and then providing very explicit offers to clients. Today, a client, if they were to take advantage of all the different savings, they can save probably about $4,000 per move. Everything from very large brand names on appliances, furniture, and things like that really help as that, although of course it's very stressful, but it's also very expensive transition time. So being able to support that. And so we're definitely growing that piece as well in terms of that value proposition.
Yeah, that move can always be, like you said, very expensive, which means there's a lot of opportunity to save money as well as spend it. So I like to hear that there's the vendor partnerships that you guys have as well. I don't know why I thought about this. I was just thinking about how I had to call my cable company recently to try and switch service, and how much of a nightmare that was. I don't even know if you can answer this question, but are there any, like, you don't even have to like say a company name, but just like cable companies versus phone companies, I guess they're in a lot of ways the same thing. Like, is there anyone that's like notoriously hard to kind of work with for your clients that you hear a lot I'm just curious. I don't know why I'm even asking this question. I
got to tell you, I can tell you. There's from a service standpoint, talk about, an industry that needs to shape up from a service standpoint. But,
I think that's more maybe industry related as a whole, just in the way that the conglomerate works. But I think for us, in the way that we handle not just the services, I mean, I can't imagine that standing in line to get your driver's license, address figured out and trying to call the utility companies. There's just so many things that kind of happen, and they do take so long to do. And the way we've handled it is just don't worry about talking to anybody face to face. Don't worry about even calling anybody and being on hold for, I don't know how long I had to be on hold the last time I went through this. We literally take that client's address. We know where they're moving to and where they're moving from, and we kick them off to the very specific location in a digital URL where they can actually just literally take a few minutes, bang, 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 they enter their information, click enter, and it's done. And so when you kind of go through some of these, longer taking tasks, for sure, there's a lot of time to be saved.
Yeah, you've done all the heavy lifting of researching to find out exactly that one web page that you needed to land on, which would have took another person an hour. We plugged in at one point, somebody was moving out to BC, and they knew exactly the hydro company and the page to go to. So, and that's one of the sometimes some misinformation or what's that word I'm looking for anyway, that people using your service will get things done for them. They still have to do the work. Like, they still have to go onto the website. You just have done the research to find out exactly where you need to go to do the work. We used to, I don't know how many years ago, have lawyers be able to move gas and hydro and stuff like that in the past. Well, they took that, I mean, from a privacy standpoint, took that right away from anyone but the homeowner. Is that right? And so the homeowner now has to, or the buyer of the house has to make that connection directly.
We made a strategic and it was probably very pivotal. We could have gone down the path of really helping clients all the way and actually doing it in their behalf in some cases, not all cases. But we took a step back and we decided that we don't really want clients' information on our platform. We really don't. We don't want to keep that information. We don't want to have any client ever feeling like we're collecting that information. And we certainly don't want any realtors to feel that we're doing that either. And so what we do is we literally just kick them off, and we don't save, we don't see any of that. And we let the clients actually make those decisions and do those things. And
there is a fine line. Yeah. There's a fine line with privacy these days, right? Yeah. And ease of use.
Yeah, and I mean, we're everybody's is ethical. I don't think it's ever a matter of being ethical, but I mean, there's so many questions that come through, and we see it on news all the time. What's Facebook doing with my data? And at the end of the day, we didn't want anybody to ever wonder what we're doing with the data, because really we just don't have it. You don't have to worry, right? We don't have it. You have nothing to worry about. So it removes that piece for sure from a reputational standpoint, from just that feeling safe and connected with MoveSnap. But of course, there's also the bigger piece of if we were going to, how do we handle that? And it just takes so much more in terms of being able to maneuver that we just decided that's probably not in the best interest of a client, and likely not in the best interest of a realtor.
You probably made a lot of people that are wearing tin hats really happy by telling us that, because I know a lot of people are very concerned about their information and giving it to anybody, so it's a good thing that you're taking that seriously as well. So I got a question for you too, Marina. I'm always kind of interested in like the journey that people take to get to places. So you've been the CEO of MoveSnap for about 2 years, I believe. So how did you get there, and like why did you decide to take on this role as the CEO of MoveSnap?
Yeah, that's actually a really funny question. I've actually always been in very high tech companies. I started my career off in engineering, and then moved into field application engineering. Made my way into sales with time, and then really moved into product management and running businesses and business lines. When I came into MoveSnap, I think it's sometimes fate is just the way that it works out. I was in a different organization, and I was looking to move on because I was traveling throughout the entire world. My team was geographically dispersed across all of the entire world, really. And I knew that I needed to start moving when I realized that I was spending maybe 4 days a month in Toronto at home with my family at most. And it just so happened that somebody had reached out to me, a connection that I knew. He was looking to see if I wanted to take over a specific business unit. It was actually within Bell. And it was within the consumer side. And I said to him, listen, I'm not the rock star you're looking for. I've never done B2C. That's just not what I've been doing. And when I hung up, I realized, wow, that is such a huge gap in my career, right? I have never done B2C direct, right? And it couldn't have been 2 weeks later, another connection that I knew, he was actually one of the co-founders of MoveSnap. He'd asked me to come in and just help from a strategic standpoint on the product side. And so I said, this is a great opportunity. It's B2B2C and get my feet wet. And it's just timing. Sometimes it's just about timing. And so I'll forever credit that person who asked me to come in. And I said I wasn't able to come into because I wasn't going to be that person. That's probably how I ended up at MoveSnap. I came in on contract, just as a contracting advisor and supporting the product side and figuring out how do we move forward. And I guess the rest is just history.
And the best part is you told that whole story with a smile on your face. So you can tell it's genuine enjoyment too. And that's part of what the show is about, is just trying to further yourself as well as your career. And I'm glad that you found a great way to do that.
Absolutely. Well, I think anything you do, it's really, it's not worth doing unless you're doing it with just amazing people. And I can't say enough about the team that we've built, and just the people that actually make it happen day in, day out are just phenomenal. Right? It's just, that's what makes it really worth doing internally. And then the impact that we have externally is just so phenomenal, I think. And to be very transparent, when I came, I was like, oh, moving, how excited do you get about moving? And, when you start listening to some of the voices and some of the things that come through our lines and concierge, it's actually really touching, when COVID hit, our lines went up by probably about 500%. Just people saying, hey, like, what am I supposed to do now? Right. Yeah. And being able to have an impact and really help people, because it really is, we kind of just put it out as stress and we're used to that word, but it is like anxiety provoking, right? People don't know what they're going to do. And being able to see that impact that we have right across. I know one of the concierge girls, and I think, Erin, you might know, there's a little picture of the concierge, and it's really, really, really small. And she was actually on the TTC on the subway. This is a while back. And a person comes up to her and says, hey, aren't you my concierge? And out of thousands of people that would go in and out, he was able to. And she said, how did you even identify? How did you even know that it's me? He says, as much as you helped me, I will forever remember your picture, And
wow.
You hear these things, and they really, and you see that purpose, right? And all of a sudden, between the people you do it with, and the people that you do it for, and that it just gives so much purpose to every day, right?
Well, I got to say, the theme of our show is about having a better quality of life within the real estate industry. And obviously, your product has given so many people a better quality of life. And when our clients have a better quality of life, we have a better quality of life. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So to our theme, if you have MoveSnap, you are living a better quality of life, not just for you, but obviously because your clients are happy, and a happy client, it's a happy wife, it's a happy life, it's a happy client, it's a happy life too. So.
And there's no better way to leave the show on a happy note than the wise words that Erin just imparted upon us. So I think we're going to start wrapping the show up here. So if you like the show, so you can subscribe to our show pretty much wherever you find your podcasts online. And please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on those sites. It really does help. You can check out our website at livingthedream.show, where you can check out and listen to any or all of our podcasts. You can head over to our YouTube channel as well, youtube.livingthedream.show, to watch our podcast video streams on demand. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. You can just email us anytime at podcast@livingthedream.show. Thank you again, Marina, so much for coming on. I had a blast. Again, Erin, thanks for hosting as always. Everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week.